We're going to call this meeting to order at 6:47. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Evans.
Present.
Hertz.
Here.
Barnes.
Here.
Swanson.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Poulos.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
And Mayor Harris.
Here. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. After that, please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 5.
Okay. We have awards on honors presentation. We have a proclamation declaring July Disability Pride Month. Mayor, you want to read the proclamation?
Yes, I will. Proclamation. Whereas Disability Pride Month is celebrated each July and is a time to celebrate the diversity and achievements of people with disabilities. And whereas this month commemorates the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, which was signed into law on June 26, 1990. The ADA is a landmark law that protects the rights of people with disabilities and ensures equal access to public life. And whereas people with disabilities are an important part of our community. When everyone is included, our whole community becomes stronger and better for all. And whereas disability is a natural part of human diversity, and people with disabilities should have the same opportunities to live, work, and participate in the community life. And whereas Disability Pride Month is a reminder for all of us to support accessibility, fairness, and respect for every person, no matter their ability. And now, therefore, I, Ashley Harris, Mayor of the City of Rock Island, do hereby proclaim the month of July as Disability Pride Month. And I call upon all residents to join in recognizing the valuable contributions of people with disabilities and reaffirming our commitment to a more inclusive, accessible, and just society for all. Dated this 14th day of July, 2025.
I saw the ARC. Sarah Wright is here, I believe. Yeah, there she is.
Hello, my name is, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We are here to tell you that July is Disability Pride Month, and we're celebrating that because in July, the ADA was signed in 1990 on the day of July 26. And with me today is Ashley, Felicia, and Tony. Tony is our president of our Speak Out Club, our Speak Out group. And Felicia is our vice president. Ashley is our secretary. The Speak Out group is a group of individuals with disabilities who get together in their self-determined way and speak out for themselves. So that's why we're really pleased to be here in front of you today. The ARC, of the Quad Cities area, is a service organization. We serve about 400 people with disabilities, 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. And this month we are celebrating Disability Awareness Month with a fundraiser. You can go to our website. We're selling a day of each day of this month, and that's a great way to support Disability Pride. Another way to support Disability Pride is through the Disability Awareness event at Modern Women Park on August 8th. And that is a disability awareness night at the ballpark with the Disability Awareness Coalition. A great way to celebrate Disability Pride Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything? Felicia, did you want to say anything about Disability Pride?
No.
Right here? No? Okay, we're going to
Say
take... This is...
Right.
No? Okay.
What,
This is your moment.
My bad.
Don't be shy.
No? You're here for speak out,
Speak
remember?
up.
You're here for speak out.
But the
Like people who have like wheelchairs, it's really hard for them to get around when, Medicaid is cutting their disability.
And Tony, did you want to say anything?
yes,
Felicia?
yeah. But a budget.
And they also cutting our budget.
Budget.
I like to enjoy
All right.
I think one of the things they're trying to say about the budget is that they're very worried about Medicaid cuts in the future, and we've been talking a lot about that in Speak Out.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that's very much on their minds
Yeah.
in Speak Out, and I know they've written letters to our local legislators and to our federal legislators where we think a lot of that action is happening. But we thank you all today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 6, public comments. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Kelly?
Hi, Kelly McKay. I'm a wildlife biologist. Milam Bottoms is quite simply the most biologically rich and important wildlife habitat remaining in the Quad City area. However, this proposed TIF, as well as the truck stop, car wash, and pot dispensary that it financially supports, will cause devastating and irreversible damage to this biological and ecological gem. Besides being an economic boondoggle for the city advanced by some highly suspect voodoo math, which you heard about earlier tonight, this proposed development represents a pending environmental catastrophe. And make no mistake, it's not a matter of if, but when this catastrophe happens. So with this in mind, I think it's important that we discuss what's at stake biologically, beginning, of course, with wintering bald eagles. Repeatedly, myself and 3 other eagle researchers who have a combined 150 plus years of experience working with these birds have explained how communal night roosting is absolutely vital to the survival of wintering bald eagles here in the Midwest region. We have also explained how Milam Bottoms is the largest night roost that's ever been documented in the lower 48 states, and how this proposed development will severely impact not only the night roost location itself, but the actual survival of eagles wintering here in the Quad City area. Furthermore, we have already demonstrated in our 6-year study and proven beyond doubt how the mitigation measures that the city and the developers continue to claim will negate the impacts to the night roost is false and simply does not work. The bottom line is this development will be extremely detrimental to the bald eagle population wintering in the Quad City area. Now, the development will negatively impact not only wintering eagles, but nesting eagles as well. There are at least 5 active bald eagle nests within 1 mile of the proposed development site. 3 of these nests this year each successfully fledged 2 young eaglets. And one of these 3 nests is well within the half-mile limit of the proposed development, meaning this development will fall under the scrutiny of the Bald Eagle and Golden Eagle Protection Act. Now, contrary to the Shive-Hattery environmental assessment, which claimed that no threatened or endangered species occur in Milam Bottoms, I've documented 4 T&E species there in the 109 hours I've spent doing random area searches in the vicinity of the proposed development. And that includes 1 federally endangered whooping crane, 2 state endangered black-crowned night herons, 2 state endangered common gallinules, 3 state endangered Blandings turtles. I wonder how many Blandings were recorded by Terracon. You know, Matt Stern's paid for and paid off consultants. Imagine how many T&E species would be found in Milam Bottoms if true, rigorous biological surveys were conducted. Now, this proposed development will negatively impact far more than T&E species. In my standardized survey efforts, I've identified 168 species of terrestrial vertebrates. This is an incredible diversity of wildlife for one location, and it includes 9 species of amphibians. That's with no surveys completed for salamanders. 11 species of reptiles. That's with no surveys completed for lizards or snakes, despite the high probability for the presence of the federally threatened copper-bellied water snake. 15 species of mammals, with no surveys completed for any of the small mammals, secretive species, or bats, despite the high probability for the presence of 2 federally endangered species, the Indiana bat and the northern long-ear bat. I've recorded 133 species of birds, and that's with minimal effort put forth during the spring, and thus far no effort in the fall or winter seasons. With slightly more effort, I expect to document 200 plus species of terrestrial vertebrates inhabiting Milam Bottoms. Again, this is an amazing diversity of wildlife. And that's not even touching on the almost countless numbers of species of invertebrates that Mr. Munson and Mr. Blevins talked about earlier tonight. I could go on, but due to time constraints, suffice it to say that the tremendous biodiversity inhabiting Milam Bottoms, which I've just illustrated, will be severely and irreversibly impacted by this TIF and the ill-advised development that it financially supports. And each one of you up there that votes to proceed with this TIF, you will be willingly sacrificing this irreplaceable natural treasure and demonstrating a complete and total disregard for the environmental well-being of the entire Quad City area. That is incredibly disgraceful. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce Sy.
She will not be here.
Okay. I'm going to have Miss Barb and Chuck Lair, or excuse me, Barb Vokalich and Chuck Lair. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Good evening. I'm Barb Woloskich. I'm the levy superintendent for the Big Island River Conservancy District, and this is Chuck Lair, our president. We would like to thank Mayor Harris and Alderman Hurt for accepting our invitation to our district last week. As some of you may know, the Big Island River Conservancy District, along with our co-sponsor, the Village of Milan, operates and maintains a 10.4-mile federally constructed levee system called the Milan Big Island Local Flood Protection Project. We appreciate that you recognize that for more than 36 years, our flood control project has protected sections of the city of Rock Island at no cost to the city. Our district provides revenues, our district's revenues provides vital protection for Rock Island 2nd Ward and Rock Island County, Black Hawk Township, residents, properties, roads, and critical infrastructures, including a water treatment plant. Our letter addressed to the former mayor dated March 17th, copies provided to the city clerk for the purpose of distributing to each of the aldermen and alderwomen, and shared at the city's public TIF hearing that same day, outlined that our district is not receptive to alterations to our levee system for non-flood control purposes, and all development proposed within our critical areas are subject by ordinance to our review and required approval before any development may or may not proceed in the northeast quadrant of I-280 and Highway 92 on Big Island. At the city's June 18th TIF hearing, we, as a taxing body responsible for maintenance and operation of our flood protection project, submitted our initial request to the City Council to remove all parcels within the Big Island River Conservancy District located in the northeast quadrant of I-280 and Highway 92 from the list of added parcels to the proposed amended Parkway I-280 TIF district. Removing these parcels would not require a new hearing, and the remainder of the proposed amended TIF district process could proceed unhindered by this action. Removing our parcels from the TIF is very important to us, as it represents nearly 16% of our taxable property. We do not receive state or federal funds. Recognizing removing our parcels removes the problem of freezing increased tax revenues for flood protection is appreciated. Revenue which provides essential services and protection for future Rock Island development and Rock Island residents on Big Island, in addition to providing future investors with greater confidence to invest.
Excuse me while I find my glasses. My eyes are telling my body how long they've been here. Your consideration to remove our parcels from TIF is a first step to fortify flood control and protect your city. Removing all parcels within our Big Island River Conservancy District from the list of added parcels to the proposed Parkway I-280 TIF district as amended, and providing our district the required detailed plans of berms, development, and pollution controls, and meeting with representatives of our Board of Trustees on Big Island to discuss safeguards to the flood control project, including reserving or transferring land over for flood control, and our district's requirements will be a welcome change. The city has had an adversarial historical record with our government, the Big Island River Conservancy District, and its stakeholders/taxpayers for nearly 60 years. To help move forward from past city transgressions and take steps forward in good faith, we appreciate that Mayor Harris and Alderman Hurt, joined by City Manager Thompson, responded to our request to meet with our representatives for a presentation of our district. Making decisions that will impact us cannot be fully grasped by simply looking at a map of colored parcels. It is important there was a mutual exchange of good information when we met. We believe we have a better understanding of each other's positions, leaving a door open for further discussions. As expressed in these informal meetings, our district and stakeholders are looking for willing actions of written commitment and good faith with follow-through by the city to move forward with us rather than against us. We again appreciate Mayor Ashley Harris, City Manager Todd Thompson, and Alderman Randy Hurt for their efforts in this right direction. Tonight, we understand the council is focused primarily on what will not be included in the additional parcels to the amended TIF, whereas future development plans will be at another time. In the meantime, our invitation for a personal tour is also extended to each of you, the council, and your staff during planning sessions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Chuck Sargent.
Good evening. This is to Mayor Ashley Harris, aldermen, alderwomen, and anyone else who may be concerned with the TIF project. Our family and neighbors were encouraged by visits from Mayor Harris, from Alderman Hurt, and from City Manager Todd Thompson to Big Island Conservancy District, particularly Mayor Harris, who took the time to visit our home built 6 years ago and located on a 1-acre lot on Big Island adjacent to the city's property. We have attended all the hearings on the city's TIF proposal. At your March 17th TIF hearing, we presented a letter outlining our concerns and objections. On June 16th, we submitted to the city clerk for the city's official record 150 letters from our neighbors and taxpayers within the Big Island River Conservancy District. These letters from the residents in the northeast quadrant of Big Island, including Rock Island's 2nd Ward, were utilized to convey our unified position on these issues to you for consideration. Together, we're trying to proactively promote good, positive planning for Big Island. We shared the contents of these letters at your June 18th TIF hearing. The points summarized are: 1, remove all parcels within the Big Island River Conservancy District from the list of additional parcels for the proposed amended Parkway I-280 TIF. 2, reserve or transfer land adjacent to the levee and ponding area for flood control as it protects the city too. 3, object to any proposed retail and high-density development on our residential side because it will damage the established character of Big Island and push it in the wrong direction. And 4, object or safeguard us from serious potential pollution to the water resources of Big Island and its residents from the proposed truck stop. Copies of our personally signed letters are attached. Our goals are for protecting our water resources, our wildlife, our way of life, and sustaining the appealing, unique character of Big Island, and for preparing to meet climate changes successfully. We feel we'd be amiss if we did not share why it's important to us and our neighbors that this City Council respond to Big Island in a more positive manner than in the past. It is history that will help you understand our need as taxpayers to see change and a new beginning with this new council. In 2004, the City Council unanimously denied a one-man insurance company a permit because it would push a neighborhood in the wrong direction. While on the other hand, the same year, the City Council turned around and approved a qualified blight, a sand and gravel mining operation within 75 feet of our homes, adjacent to our levee, and gave permission to a mining company to bore 2 5-foot holes through our levee, jeopardizing our lives and our investments and pushing our neighborhood in the wrong direction. At our expense as taxpayers, our government, the Big Island River Conservancy District, had to fight that decision by the city that placed us in harm's way. Our district was successful at every level in the federal court, but it was at our expense as taxpayers that the case was won. The City of Rock Island's troubled track record with Big Island has been over the course of nearly 60 years. Following the devastating flood of 1965, the city attempted to stand in Big Island's way of qualifying for a protective flood control project built by the Corps of Engineers. In 2013, the City of Rock Island attempted a hostile takeover by attempting to condemn a large portion of our levee for highway access off Highway 92 through our levee and running through the middle of our quiet and nestled-in nature community. Again, at our expense as taxpayers, the Big Island River Conservancy District had to fend off this unlawful condemnation attempt by the city, one that ended with the judge in 2015 sanctioning the City of Rock Island and its attorneys under Illinois Rule 137 for legal misconduct. The city's past decisions have cost the city's taxpayers plenty and have had a lasting negative impact on all of us. May this past not be repeated. Rather, may these initial visits by city representatives to Big Island be the start of a new chapter. For us, it was refreshing that Mayor Harris came out to learn about Big Island, see our homes, and how a 1-acre lot can be developed like ours. Learn about our levee system and concerns, and listen to our government, the Big Island River Conservancy District. We also warmly thank the efforts...
5 minutes, ma'am, but please go ahead and finish, please. Wrap it up, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. We also warmly thank the efforts of Alderman Randy Hurt and City Manager Todd Thompson, meeting with representatives of our district on Big Island to understand the issues a little clearer and expressing willingness to work with the Big Island River Conservancy District. We feel removing the parcels within the northeast quadrant of Big Island, reserving or transferring these areas for flood control, preserving the character of Big Island, and working with the Big Island River Conservancy District is a move towards a new and better chapter and a new, fresh beginning. Thank you for taking the time to hear our concerns, for your visits, and for your commitment to a better working relationship.
Thank you. Ms. Kim DeWitt.
Thank you. My name is Kim DeWitt. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the council. We own a personal residence in Rock Island and our own residential home on Big Island. We love our beautiful Big Island home and where we live. Its tranquility, spaciousness, located adjacent to the historic Hennepin Canal State Park is what made us move there. We consider ourselves fortunate to live in such a unique area within minutes of the city's amenities. My husband and I, along with many of our neighbors, met and discussed our concerns for the city's proposed amended TIF and how the development is bound to follow may impact us in the future of our levy on Big Island. After discussion, each of us signed and submitted a letter to the city and copied it to the Big Island River Conservancy District, and we use this format in efforts to communicate succinctly and expediently with the city and our concerns as it impacted parties to avoid irritating all of you and having more than 160 of us repeat ourselves over and over again at this podium. We understand that and are thankful that Randy Hurt has been instrumental in bringing to your attention and addressing our first request regarding removing the parcels we described out in the TIF. We appreciate those efforts along with the visits of Mayor Harris and City Manager Thompson, and we look forward to those making a positive difference. Our Big Island community is protected by a levee system. Many of us residents, we continue to educate in ourselves in the many years that it's helped to protect it. You have no idea what the importance of the levee is to us and may not know how it really protects the city interests too. It's worth knowing, and I echo the district's invitation to all of you to come out and personally check out and learn more about how our levee system protects Big Island and the city. My request is simple. Please remove the parcels within the northeast quadrant of Big Island out of the proposed amended TIF. Take time, as Mayor Harris and Hurt and the City Manager Thompson did, to meet with Big Island River Conservancy District to learn more about Big Island and the levee. And 3, to reserve or transfer land to Big Island for flood control, which protects our land and your development interests too. This will help avoid placing all of us in harm's way. Thank you for allowing me to share with you my family and neighbors' views on these important matters.
Thank you. Thank you. Martha Voss.
Hello, my name is Martha Voss. Thanks for your time tonight, and to Mayor Ashley Harris, Alderman Randy Hurt, and City Manager Todd Thompson for your visit. I hope there are more visits from the council members as you work on development plans. Working together, to me, is a win-win. My home and other property I own are within the Rock Island 2nd Ward located on Big Island. My Rock Island neighbors and I jointly agreed and provided the city clerk with individually signed letters opposing the city, including any parcels within the Big Island River Conservancy District in the amended TIF. Freezing future increased flood revenue to our River Conservancy District is greatly concerning to us. The Big Island River Conservancy District protects our investments in Rock Island with flood control. We felt our letters would help communicate our collective position on this issue to your council and staff as you deliberate whether to take out these parcels. Our collective request is to take these parcels out before any approval of this TIF. The reasons have already been stated, and we would greatly appreciate your support in accomplishing this goal. My name is Martha Voss. Again, I'm a Rock Island 2nd Ward resident. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Murphy.
Try and get here without falling. I made it. All right. My name is Tim Murphy. I'm a Moline resident. I'm also a member of Audubon Society. But I'm speaking as an individual, not as a member from that. Regardless, Milam Bottoms is a unique, relatively untouched natural environment, an ecosystem of bottomland timber, wetlands, and floodplains. It holds a vast array of plants and animals that have nowhere else to go because Milan Bottoms is an island surrounded by a destroyed natural environment. But evidently it is not surrounded by enough development because the city of Rock Island and business persons want to take a chunk of this land and destroy it further. In doing so, they likely destroy the upland breeding habitat of snakes and turtles. In doing so, they undoubtedly affect the night roost of bald eagles. In doing so, they risk polluting the surrounding wilderness with light, noise, and runoff full of potential contaminants. In doing so, they risk destroying possible future upland nesting habitat for sandhill cranes, and now we find out whooping cranes and black-crowned night herons and common gallinules. For what purpose is this done? To construct a truck stop at a cannabis dispensary, a development that could be done in alternative sites with much less environmental risk. I believe we, the collective we, have a responsibility to protect and preserve what is left of our natural environment, and it is immoral to destroy it. I realize people are going to say, but we are not destroying Milan Bottoms. In fact, we are putting a portion into a conservation preserve in order to better protect it. That is better concept and protection than previously done, but that does not alter the fact that the development will negatively impact and potentially greatly damage the 540-acre preserve. In other words, you create a preserve, but place damaging structures right next to it. Now it has been said that, oh look, Nahant Marsh is a thriving ecosystem with the development on all sides. True enough statement. But the plant and animal life that resides there do so in spite of development. The development degrades the environmental experience for me as a visitor, and I guarantee it degrades the space for wildlife. Artificial noise, light, and contaminants traveling through the air and water negatively impacts Nahant Marsh. We, I'm on the board, have spent considerable sums of money in an effort to mitigate these impacts. That is what I believe will happen to the land surrounding this development. Why is this development happening? Obviously for money. No other reason except for the developer to accrue money through city subsidies, potentially $6.5 million in profit from sales. And of course, the city of Rock Island hopes to accrue money through taxes. It would be nice if the developer would simply say, I believe in this project and its profitability so much that I will spend my own money. No, the developer believes so little in the project's feasibility that he demands the city kick in funds to make his investments less risky and or simply more profitable. I have also been curious as to the amount of money expected from this venture. We have been told that MTI and Milan grossed $70 million in 2024. That's a good chunk of change. It also means that as a retail store open 365 days a year, it grossed $192,000 a day. I can only say wow. It also means that if each shopper spent $100, you would have over 1,900 customers per day within the store. It means that NTI grossed nearly as much money in sales as all the food sales made in the city of Rock Island. I am sorry, I find this number hard to believe. Finally, we come to the matter of the truck stop. There is no way a truck stop cannot have a detrimental effect on adjacent natural environments. Want proof? People don't want to live next to a truck stop. Why do we expect that animals who are much more sensitive to disturbance would do so? Those that stay only do because they have nowhere else to go. Everything outside of Milan Bottoms has already been spoken for by people. In short, I am certainly not against the truck stop or the dispensary. I am, however, against the location. We have so few wild places. Why can't we learn to leave what is left alone? Thank you.
Larry Lockwood.
Oh. Finally. I don't mind waiting. Natsista Motau Heheve. I am a member of the Northern Cheyenne tribe. My Cheyenne name is Mota Wahave. It was given to me by my grandfather, Charles Little Old Man, and it means Black Morning Star. I've had the opportunity here in the Quad Cities to rescue a bald eagle on the Mississippi River in January, the coldest time of the year when these eagles come down. And we all know that. They all come down and they all roost in these trees and they all roost down in Milan. And I'm from Montana, okay? We don't have eagles like that, okay? So in Montana, if we see an eagle, you know, if I'm driving, I'm lucky I don't wreck the car going, look, there's an eagle, there he goes. And it's not just me, it's Native people that hold these eagles in high regard. And it's not just Native people who hold eagles in high regard, it's people like you right now that hold these eagles in high regard.
And in 2024, in December, the United States finally officially recognized the bald eagle as our national symbol. Because we already all knew that, but it became official in 2025. And how that came about was in Minnesota, there was a Native American community that had the largest daytime roost of eagles in the United States. And it was worth protecting. There's such a spiritual significance to the eagle for Native Americans. And it was because of these river communities that had these eagles roosting there. They advocated and they advocated and they finally made it official that the eagle is our national symbol. And they outlined all the reasons and all the things that we use the eagle for. But first and foremost, you know, for us, the eagle flies the highest. He's the one that's closest to the Creator. So in that sense, in that physical sense, we use his feathers in prayer because we believe that bird carries our prayers to the Creator. And I rescued this eagle along the river. He had ran into a power line and snapped his wing. And I found him on the river. We scared the heck out of each other because I walked around the bend. And he was there, I was there, and I don't know who was more scared, me or him, because he jumped that way and I jumped this way. And I landed on the ice, but the ice didn't break. But that kind of experience is something that I am prompted, and I have to speak up for the eagles here, especially the injured ones and the ones that are soon to be injured. There was a time in the people when they became too many of the land. They had grown too big. They got too big for they grew out the land because they knew the benefit of the land around here and that it was good for the corn, beans, and squash. But they grew too much, and so they came together as a people to make a decision to decide where they were going to go. And they picked out 3 people, 1, 2, 3. Go out and search an area where you think it's the best for us to move, and then come back when the moon comes around and we'll make a decision. And sure enough, when they came back, each person spoke of the best place they thought would be the best place to move to it, but it was the one person who talked about a meadow with big tall grass, and the land was good for the 3 sisters, corn, beans, and squash. And it had a creek running through the middle of it, good fresh water source, and it had a line of trees that was good for protection. So the people came together and they made a decision to move to this place. But Grandpa said, okay, this group of the village, you go prepare the land for our coming, and we're going to clean up the land and leave it as we found it. And so when the tribe split up, there was a tribal member that came back to the community. And this was one guy who spent a lot of his time out in the woods. And what he used to do was he used to follow the wolves around from when he was a kid. So much so that they called him Wolf's Brother. So when Wolf's Brother came back into the community and seen all this commotion and people were leaving and coming and going, he said, what's going on, Grandpa? And Grandpa said, we're leaving and this is where we're going. And when he told Wolf's Brother said, no, you can't live there because a great community of wolves live there. Thousands of wolves live there. Man and wolf can't live there together. And Grandpa got mad. He said, look, we made a decision and we're going to do this. And you weren't here to make that decision with us, so we're going to do it right now. It's already done, so you just go do what you got to do. So Wolf's Brothers started moving too, and when they got to this camp, it was beautiful, but the first night they could hear these wolves howling in the woods. And at first they were scared, but everybody was like, no, calm down. And when they got up in the morning, they found out that the wolves had taken some food, so they made a decision. They came together and decided to leave the food out for the wolves to encourage them to stay out of the village. But they didn't. Wolves were running through taking...
30 seconds, sir. 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Yes, sir.
If you should ever find an eagle feather laying on the ground, I was told this, and I pick it up. I'm supposed to think that an eagle gave up a part of itself for me. And the lesson is the necessity of personal sacrifice in our life. And that holds true to each and every one of us in here, especially parents and especially leadership. People in the positions of leadership. They understand, as parents do, the necessity of personal sacrifice in our life. And before we become the people who kill wolves and kill eagles, can we please make this decision again and reconsider some things that we haven't considered yet for sure. And, you know, as leaders, the necessity of personal sacrifice. And I'm here for the Eagles, and I'll still be here. And I didn't sing, so they don't call me too populist for nothing. So.
Thank you, sir. Justin Bookett. Excuse me.
Hello again. I'm up here once again to ask that you consider to not approve of the TIF expansion that would take place at the Milan Bottoms. I really believe that Rock Island will not benefit from this development, and that the negative externalities associated with such activities will come at the expense of vulnerable wildlife. Though I expect you will approve to hand off this land to A. Hannah Illawa, I once again request that you consider the risks of placing businesses such as a truck stop next to a wetland. I hope that after several months, you have at least investigated why there is such a hard push for wetland protection and have begun to understand the critical importance that they have on this planet. Failure to conduct research on the matter would make you entirely unqualified to make these kinds of decisions, of course. You've received many warnings from local biologists and conservationists about the damages this development will inflict, and I can only hope that you have actually listened. Crimes against nature, though, have become the norm in this country, and environmental illiteracy in the U.S. is on display for the entire globe to see. The federal government is letting all the dogs off the leash, and we will soon be experiencing a far more rapid decline of our ecosystems. It is a national embarrassment, and we are soon approaching a decision that may become a serious local embarrassment. Rock Island, again, has the opportunity to express to the rest of the surrounding area, the state, and the country what kind of value they place on one of the few true remaining areas of wilderness that we have left in the state of Illinois. 90% of wetlands have been destroyed in this state, and of the remaining 10, 96% is currently threatened. Consider the floods and the rainfall that we endured locally from this previous week. Can you protect our waterways and its wildlife from the environmental disasters in the event floods sweep pollutants into the bottoms? This is inevitable, and this is going to happen. We may as well acknowledge now that the Milan Bottoms will become a part of the threatened percentage of wetlands as opposed to the protected percentage. Is this the legacy we seek to accomplish, risking vulnerable habitat for a business venture that most people in the community agree is a terrible idea and has a high likelihood of failure? Iowa may very well legalize marijuana in the near future, and you would lose all the weed business as well as never coming close to encouraging truckers to fuel up over here. Additionally, have we considered the kinds of businesses that we are trying to promote in Rock Island and ask if those businesses are best for the future families of Rock Island? Have we considered who, if anyone, will actually benefit from this establishment? Rock Island, you have opportunities to attract families once more and show the world what a great place this really is. Consider electing to identify as a community who values sustainability, public health, conservation, education, diversity, and by doing so, create an environment that is appealing to the values and beliefs of many young families. Threatening an ecosystem for the benefit of a few is not the kind of move that appeals to most people. Your future is investing in your downtown area, your neighborhoods, and the dilapidated areas that could use revitalization, not a thriving wetland. Your future is in young families, not truck stops and degradation. Your future is in giving people a safe and healthy place to live. By creating an environment that is suitable and attractive to young families, you will ensure this city's success, but no one will be attracted to a truck stop. Remember your roles as humans and our relationship to the natural world, and don't be so disconnected that you cannot see this for the tragedy that it will be. Consider once more this vote and the consequences associated with this development, and if you really want your name sewn into the fabric of this disaster. Once you've made this decision, there's no turning back, and only one of your options can guarantee you will commit no harm to the wildlife that depends on the bottoms. And I leave you at last with this quote. A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. Don't get so wrapped up in the concerns of today that you forget about tomorrow. Consider planting a tree instead of paving paradise. Thank you.
Jane Bryant.
Hello. My name is Jane Kettering Bryant. I'm a Rock Island resident. I also teach in the Rock Island School District, and I live in the 2nd Ward. I have 3 points to express tonight. Firstly, as a Rock Island, Big Island resident, I am in agreement with the experts from the Conservancy regarding removal of the northeast quadrant of Big Island from the TIF. And I did sign a letter stating that. I do understand that your development plans for Big Island are not being discussed tonight. Secondly, I most emphatically state that the truck stop gas station does not make sense. We all know that getting gas in Iowa makes sense. Quad Cityans and anyone traveling knows that. I believe that destroying irreplaceable habitat for a truck stop gas station is unconscionable. Last of all, I do urge you to build the dispensary. I know it will bring in very good money to Rock Island and to Mr. Eubanks and Stern. However, the adage, if you build it, they will come, absolutely applies here. Don't build it at the Milan Bottoms. Put it somewhere else. I believe that for the most part, people who purchase weed simply want to park, buy their weed, and go home. It could go downtown, which is closest to Iowa, or even next to Bally's, or someplace that you could find, probably pretty easily. My point, there are many other places. And Mr. Eubanks and Mr. Stern, if they're listening, you do have a true chance to be heroes. You have a chance to be heroes to the people of Rock Island who have for months been talking of their concerns. You could put that land aside for the good of the Milan Bottoms. And you could be given a chance, I'm sure, by the city for some other development of the dispensary. In conclusion, I ask, please, that you listen to your residents, that you stop the TIF process, leaving the Milan Bottoms and the northeast quadrant alone, and you find a different place for the dispensary. Thank you.
Thank you. Vernice Johnson.
Excuse me, my name is Andre Johnson. This is my wife, Vernice Johnson, and we had an emergency situation where plumbers had to be called to our residence in Rock Island to remove some orangeburg. We had insurance called in, and they paid for the removal of the orangeburg from our resident to the street and stopped the work because they told us they had nothing to link up to the street because a sewer lateral was put in over it, and there's no way they could connect without destroying the street. We don't know what ward we're in. We're on 34th Street, 3409th Street in Rock Island. The city came out to look at the job and got with a guy named Brad from Riverbend Plumbing, and they were supposed to get together to find out what they were going to do next. We've been sitting waiting, and we haven't heard anything whether the city is going to get involved, but we have exhausted our incomes, our insurance, and we don't know what else to do. We're asking the city to get involved to help us to figure out what we need to do to be able to link our resident up to the sewer lateral lines that run down 9th Street in Rock Island, Illinois. Can we get some help from anybody in the city? Thank you.
Where they have it hooked up now, it can still back up and still damage our basement. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I did talk to them last night.
So you have their contact information?
Yeah, I did send an email out to everyone that needs to. The problem was today they were busy. They are going to get a hold to you guys, okay? And so I did talk to them as well. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, sir and ma'am. The last one for today, Miss Linda Broadson. Boardson.
Yes, Boardson. Hi. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, Mayor Harris and Rock Island City Council. I am speaking to you. I come from Clinton. I consider myself a daughter of the Mississippi River. And I do want to tell you, Rock Island has played an important part of my life. When I was studying for an occupational therapy degree, I did a 3-week clerkship at the Easter Seal Society in Rock Island and lived in Augustana dorms for 3 weeks. Also, I believe Rock Island was the first to offer the Illinois Master Naturalist Program, which I participated in. I've been a member of the Black Hawk Hiking Club, and thanks to them, I've been able to explore many wonderful hiking areas in our area. But tonight, like I said, I am a daughter of the Mississippi River. I grew up in Clinton. During the 1960s and 1970s, I don't recall ever seeing bald eagles along the riverfront in downtown Clinton, ever. Thanks to banning DDT and conservation efforts, that has all changed. Indeed, one year during a Clinton Christmas bird count, which I participated in, 700 bald eagles were counted in one sitting at Lock and Dam 13. 700. States, communities, and individuals alike, all along this great national river that we live along, from Minnesota down to Louisiana, we all play an important role in maintaining the ecological health of the Mississippi River. Rock Island City's Council, you have a sacred responsibility in this matter at hand. The proposed development of Mylan Bottoms is a poor use of TIF funds. It is my understanding that the purpose of TIF funds is to promote development of economically disadvantaged areas in a community. Mylan Bottoms is anything but an economically disadvantaged area. Indeed, Mylan Bottoms significantly contributes to the economic development of Rock Island as a whole during the Bald Eagle Days Festival, which is held annually in the Quad Cities. Over 2,500 bald eagles roost in the Quad City area during the winter months. Development in Mylan Bottoms, as so many others have eloquently spoke about here this evening, would impact not only the bald eagle population in Mylan Bottoms, but also other roosting sites as well. The possibility of a conservation easement has also been discussed, which would allow public access through kayaking trails, wooden boardwalks, and hiking. And while this sounds attractive, its human impact on this pristine nature setting in the Quad City area is not a good idea. Human access increases the probability of a need to monitor litter, monitor toileting facilities, and indeed require increased human intrusion to manage problems that would arise with public access. So I'm imploring you, Rock Island City Council, Mylan Bottoms would be left best as it is, ecologically intact. For how do you put a price on clean water, clean air, natural flood mitigation, and the joy of seeing bald eagles in flight? Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thank you. Item 7, update Rock Island. Update Rock Island. Coffee with a Cop returns tomorrow morning at McDonald's at 1813 30th Street from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Come meet 2 of your new police chaplains and strike up a conversation with one of Rock Island's finest while enjoying some delicious coffee. Starlight Review. The 69th annual Starlight Review continues in Lincoln Park every Tuesday with live music and dancing. This Tuesday, July 15th, come see Totes McGoats. Next week, on Tuesday, July 22nd, enjoy the music of the Night People. Concessions open at 5 p.m. with delicious food from the Hy-Vee Grill, and the concert starts at 6:30 p.m. The 2025 Tell on Your Neighbor Award has begun. Every year, residents of Rock Island are encouraged to tell on your neighbor by nominating the yards in their neighborhood they find to be the most beautiful or the most improved. Nominees will receive certificates of appreciation from myself, Mayor Ashley Harris, and the chairperson of the Rock Island Arts and Beautification Commission. Nominations can be submitted through August 12th by sending digital photos of the nominated yard to the Community Development Department to the email douglas.catherine@rigov.org. For questions, please call 309-732-2905. And now I'd like to talk about something really fun. The City of Rock Island and the Rock Island Downtown Alliance is holding a photo contest to celebrate the installation of Rock Island block letters and the conversion of a parking lot into usable green space at the corner of 2nd Avenue and 18th Street. The contest began Saturday and will run through Tuesday, July 31st. Participants are encouraged to flex their creativity by taking photos of the block letters to celebrate the character of our community. Photos must be shared publicly on Facebook or Instagram with the hashtag # Downtown Rock Island, no later than midnight, July 31st. Participants may submit multiple photos, which may be taken at any time, day or night, under the lights, and contain people, pets, or just the letters framed in an artistic way. Just like the cool ones, you're looking at, just like the cool ones you're looking at up on the screen. Right there, there I am. I didn't want to mess that punchline up. Item number 8.
A special ordinance to remove the handicap parking space at 1529 10th Avenue, second reading.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item B.
Report from the City Clerk's Office regarding a request from the Quad Cities Running Club to hold their annual TBK Quad Cities Marathon and a resolution for the closure of the Master Sergeant Stanley Talbot Memorial Bridge, 15th Street, U.S. Highway 67, and 1st Avenue on Sunday, September 21st from 7 a.m. to noon.
Move to approve the event and adopt the resolution.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos. Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item C.
Report from the Community Development Department regarding a resolution as part of the Illinois Housing Development Association, or IDA, Home Repair and Accessibility Program, Round 2.
Motion to adopt the resolution and direct the city manager to execute the officer certificate and certificate of incumbency.
Second. It's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Miles, can you just talk about how the grant will be administered and how can residents apply?
Certainly. So the city is receiving another grant from IDA to undertake housing rehabilitation throughout the city. This year it's up from what we got previously. We're up to $500,000, so a nice $500,000 injected into the neighborhoods that need it the most. As in past years, the program will be run in the same manner that our regular CDBG funded housing rehab program will be run. So for any resident interested in getting housing rehab assistance, they'd apply the exact same way to the same people, following all the same steps and procedures. Our goal as staff is to make it so that for residents seeking assistance, they don't know where the money's coming from because they don't need to worry about it. We handle all of the differences on the back end. On the front end, everyone's treated the same. I think the best way to think about this basically is it's money sort of padding out a little further the funds we're already using for housing rehab. Not quite a full $500,000 in CDBG is budgeted for that, but with this we're taking that a little bit further. We're hoping specifically to be able to move through some of the waiting lists for assistance we already have on the books and get a little further down on that.
Another question for you, Miles, if I may. Do we have a plan to inform the public on how they can apply, other than just watching the city council meeting, and then the process or the steps that they need to take so that we can get that information out to folks who may or may not be watching tonight?
Certainly. Obviously, with our CDBG-funded housing rehab program, we try to periodically put out information and make it known that we are always actively taking applications. Once all the paperwork for this in particular funding source is complete, we're hoping to put out, again, some additional information, encouraging people to check it out. We'll provide, of course, links to kind of see more information online. As always, though, if you have any residents in your wards who might benefit from this assistance, send them our way. We can either help them virtually or in person if they want to swing by City Hall.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy. Aye. Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Agenda item 9A.
Report from administration regarding amendments to Chapter 3 Alcoholic Liquor, Section 3-12C, limitations on certain licenses, providing City Council with the discretion to grant the creation of an additional license in a class with a restriction on size. First reading.
Motion to consider the amendments to the ordinance.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
I remain opposed. The previous mayor had this power. I see no reason to not allow the current mayor to have this power.
I would agree with you, but I would say that because the previous administration had that, doesn't mean that that's the best way to go about it. And council has discussed several issues with regard to numbers of licenses that were issued, and in a way, it actually this change actually provides some, I guess, support for the mayor because he won't have to go back and try to argue with council and say, hey, you know, we need to do this, we need to do that. I see it more of as a support, a change for the support of our current mayor.
So my question is, in 2024, this was changed to give the mayor that power, right, to be the commissioner at that time. If
My
I'm not
understanding.
mistaken, the commission was dissolved and then the mayor received that responsibility.
That's correct. The amendments that we previously made, the Liquor Commission is no longer in place. Part of the reason for that is due to the difficulties the city had in getting the commission to be able to attend these liquor hearings that we were trying to have for disciplinary action. So we couldn't get the commission together, which was difficult. They couldn't discuss the matter in closed session under the Open Meetings Act because there wasn't a good exemption under it. So there was different procedural issues that we had with the commission in place. At that time, council decided that they wanted to eliminate the commission and put that power with the commissioner, and that is with the disciplinary actions. That's, you know, when someone violates the alcoholic liquor code, then they go in front of the commissioner now instead of the commission. This is in terms of creating the caps. We already have caps on certain classes. And when we established these caps back in 2024, I think February of 2024, we granted the commissioner the power to increase that cap. There has been issues with that. I would say that other cities that have a cap on certain licenses, they do have that power with council, since council is the one that creates the caps. But again, as Alderman Parker has indicated, Mayor Tomes did have that power. So that is where we are at from a procedural standpoint.
I agree that I've battled this back and forth. And I think at this time for me, I think that the mayor deserves the opportunity to continue with this until he shows that it may become a conflict, but I don't see that in this mayor. And so I'm opposed of actually changing.
I don't. My personal opinion is I think it safeguards our mayor. That's the way I look at it. As an example, you know, this is for the limits, but, you know, even as an example, going back, I don't think if the mayor declines or denies a license, that person goes right back to the mayor. I mean, I think that we need to look at that being changed. I mean, that is completely stupid. If you deny me a liquor license, I go right back to the person that got denied. That's crazy to me. So, you know, something like this, I think it's just trying to, we have had issues in the past, and it's trying to actually help him. You know, it's, having that is a big responsibility. So, and I think anything we can offload from him to try to help him is all I'm for, so.
Just to clarify, this has nothing to do with processes for when liquor licenses are denied. This is solely the power to increase the number of licenses available to the public.
It was an example, Alderman Parker.
And I feel that City Council spent a lot of time focusing on the caps, and to have City Council be undermined by putting that cap in and having it be overridden for whatever reason, I just feel that City Council puts caps and Council does ordinances for a reason, and it doesn't matter to me who the mayor is. I just feel that if City Council sets a cap, then that's where it should stay, and if the change needs to be made, then the governing body that set the cap should be able to make that.
I respect that, but also understanding that one of the main authorities that the mayor has is the Liquor Commission. Everything else is pretty much ran through the city manager and council. I just think that that's undermining his authority at this time.
I am also opposed to the change.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Are we ready for roll call?
Any more discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
No.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
No.
Hurt.
Aye.
Barnes.
No.
Motion carries. B.
Item B.
Report from the city attorney regarding amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Section 2-40, conducting council meetings or conduct of council meetings by repealing said section in its entirety and replacing it with a new section entitled Public Participation. First reading.
Motion to consider suspend rule and pass ordinance.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Move to amend the motion to change the time limitation from 3 minutes to 5 minutes.
Second.
I don't have any objection to cleaning up language, you know, updating our ordinances periodically. That's fine. I just am opposed to decreasing the amount of time that the public is offered to speak to the council.
So we have a first and a second. Go ahead.
Yes, so procedurally, we'll do a roll call on the motion to amend. If that passes, then we need a roll call on the new ordinance as written with the 3 minutes. Or, I'm sorry, with the 5 minutes, replacing the 3 minutes. So there'll be 2 votes.
Okay.
So the first one is for the amendment.
Correct.
And has there already been a first and a second? for the
Yes.
amendment? So is there any discussion on the amendment? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
The amendment carries. Now, we are going to read the motion to, that Poulos and Healy first and second, and that's the motion to consider, suspend the rules, and pass the ordinance, obviously with the amendment that you guys just passed.
Are we waiting for a first and a second?
No, just discussion.
Okay.
I didn't know.
So is there any discussion?
Okay.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy. Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item C.
Report from the Community Development Department regarding an ordinance adopting and approving an amended Rock Island Tax Increment Financing Parkway I-280 redevelopment plan and related redevelopment projects for the proposed amendment redevelopment project area. First reading.
Motion to consider, suspend the rules, and pass the ordinance.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I would like to table this until the environmental assessments are completed and released to the public.
So Alderman Barnes, I just need a clarification if you're wanting to table or if you're wanting to postpone until after the assessments are complete, because those are two different motions.
Postpone.
Postpone to a certain date? Okay. So we would need a second on that.
I'll second it.
There's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor.
Sorry.
Just for the public's use, I understand that the TIF district is being proposed to be used as part of the development agreement with the Casino West site. However, as I have maintained this whole time, the TIF district will support much more than the Casino West project. The district includes Andalusia Road, it includes Southwest Industrial Park. Currently, it includes, parts of Big Island and other areas. And TIF funding can be used for conservation work in the wetland area. So, just to make it completely clear, as far as I see it, voting in favor of the TIF district amendment is not an explicit voting in favor of the proposed development. And so I plan to vote in the affirmative. I sympathize with wanting to wait until the environmental assessments are complete. The consultant that the developer has hired, that is between the developer and the consultant. I have stated repeatedly that what matters to me is the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Those two government agencies will be reviewing the data and the study that the consultant procured by the developer, right? So I am not a biologist. I am not an ecological professional. I have no idea how to read the results of the Terracon study. And so I have no need to wait for that study to be completed. Still, the Illinois DNR and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will be reviewing the data and the study to make sure that it was done appropriately, citing the concerns that people have made about, who's hiring consultants. And that is what I'm interested in getting feedback on, right? Not necessarily what the consultant that was hired by the developer is saying, but what the government agencies are saying. So personally, and I understand we can disagree and that's fine, but for clarity, I'm voting to continue with the TIF district because I'm waiting to see what the DNR and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife say, not what the environmental consultant says.
Point of order. I didn't realize that was what we were actually doing, so I didn't need to remove myself.
Are you removing your second to the motion to postpone it until after the environmental assessments?
Yes.
Okay, so now I have a motion from Alderperson Barnes to to postpone this to a date certain, and I do not have a second, so now I need a second for that motion to move forward.
Is there a second to postpone?
Okay, so the motion fails, and I will go back to the original motion. And we have a first and a second, so it would be discussion at this point.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing I would like, let's make it perfectly clear that the amended area there, can we let everybody know what the amendment was? Not everybody gets a chance to read through all of the data that we've been given. Could either Alderperson Hurt or the mayor or city manager make it perfectly clear so that folks know what we're actually voting on?
Can I clarify that? So as stated earlier, on Friday, city manager and myself met with the Big Island River Conservancy regarding the parcels included in the TIF amendment. We originally intended for the Big Island parcels to be removed from the amended TIF this evening. However, after discussions involving our city attorney, it was determined there is a notice issue as the ordinance on the agenda and in the packet has these parcels included. We are still able to remove these parcels on the first meeting following the adoption of the amended ordinance. And it is our intent to do so. It is important that the city and Big Island begin to work as partners and not remain in opposition. And I would like to ask our city attorney to explain further.
Yes, that's correct. So based on when we received notice about wanting to redo that area, we had already posted the agenda and the ordinances as drafted. I did contact a TIF attorney, Kathy Orr, who we use on really complex TIF-related issues to get a second opinion on what process we should do to just make sure everything we're doing is legally justified. And she recommended that at this point, it's easier to pass the ordinances as drafted to create the TIF, and then at the following meeting, go ahead and remove those Big Island parcels. City staff has already been instructed as to go ahead and follow that process. Removing the parcels after the TIF is enacted is a lot easier because we're not increasing the boundaries of the TIF, we're just taking parcels out of the TIF. City has actually done that previously in 2021 as it relates to the North 11th Street TIF, so it's a process we are well aware of. It's just going to require a simple ordinance that we then provide notice to everyone and we publish it in the paper within 10 days. So we've been in, city staff has already had a meeting on it, we've been directed to go ahead and do that, but at this juncture, the attorney had recommended that we go ahead and proceed with the ordinances as drafted and then go ahead and remove them at the next meeting. And that is the intent of the city to do so.
Can I just add clarification on that? Because I have had conversation with several different people about this, as well as the attorney. So I wasn't aware of what was happening. It just got confusing in the moment. So I apologize if anyone assumed differently. But the reality is, I do believe that we need to pass the TIF, and they have already worked out the other parts.
Don't forget to turn your mic on, Alderperson Evans. The YouTube feed, people won't be able to hear you. I have a question, or kind of a question by way of a statement. There has been question from the public about whether the city is legally able to use TIF funds for conservation work or planning work related to conservation. Last city council meeting, the city's wetland task force presented recommendations as far as establishing a conservation easement to the city. Sounds like there's consensus. I don't want to speak for the city council, but to me, what I'm hearing is that there's consensus that we move forward with the Illinois DNR and the nature reserve, which is wonderful. I'm glad that we're doing that. But I was recently informed that while the original presentation said that method had no cost associated with it, now it's my understanding that actually if the city did chip in a little bit of money, that could expedite things. Is this amended TIF district ordinance drafted in such a way that will give the city legal authority to use TIF funds to fund this type of work, working with the Illinois DNR to establish a conservation easement in the Mylan Bottoms?
Yes, so that is another question that I had posed to the TIF attorney back at the end of April of this year. I specifically inquired about the availability to use TIF funding for that wetland area. She did confirm that so long as the area is included in the TIF area and our amended redevelopment plan includes conservation efforts, which it does, we can absolutely use TIF funds for wetland management, survey studies, or public access, should we so choose.
Okay, so it sounds like, assuming we keep this train rolling with respect to the conservation easement, the public can expect a vote from the city council relatively soon to allocate some money from this new TIF district that we're establishing tonight for setting up a conservation easement in the Mylan Bottoms. And I, as one member of the city council, am perfectly happy to commit to doing that tonight. I hope my colleagues on city council agree. It's my understanding that we are in consensus about this, but to drive the point home, we hear the public about their concerns with the TIF district. Here is a perfect example of the city of Rock Island using TIF funds, which we could not use absent amending the TIF district, for conservation work in the Mylan Bottoms.
Alderperson Parker, I would agree with you, but I also want to make it clear that a promise made is a promise kept. So if it is our intention to withdraw the concerned individuals or concerned properties, then we need to give them the same amount of respect and saying, yes, we're making a promise here. We have to do it legally by coming to the next meeting. Relax, we're not going to take your houses. That was a joke, folks.
I will personally commit to that. And also what Alderman Parker said, I believe that speeds the process up by 12 to 24 months is kind of the game that we were told, that if we were able to use some of this TIF funds, I mean, it was within 2 years we could do this rather than 5. So just trying to help.
So if the motion was to consider, suspend the rules and pass the ordinance, then we could at the next council meeting remove the Big Island from the TIF.
That is correct, yes.
That's as I understand it as well.
And I commit to doing that.
So do I.
Any more discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
No.
Motion carries.
Item 9D.
Report from the Community Development Department regarding an ordinance adding additional parcels of property to the Rock Island Tax Increment Financing Parkway I-280 redevelopment project area. First reading.
Motion to consider, suspend the rules, and pass the ordinance.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, for transparency, I motion to postpone until all environmental assessments are completed and released to the public.
Do I have a second? Okay, motion fails. Let's go back to the original motion.
Yeah. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes. Motion carries.
9E.
Report from the Community Development Department regarding an ordinance adopting tax increment financing for the amended Parkway I-280 redevelopment project area. First reading.
Motion to consider, suspend the rules, and pass the ordinance.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, once again, for transparency, I motion to postpone until all environmental assessments are completed and released to the public.
Do I have a second? Do we have a second?
To the original motion.
Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
No.
Motion carries.
Item F.
Report from the Economic Development Department regarding a development agreement between the City of Rock Island and Newfield Ventures LLC. First reading.
Motion to approve the development agreement, authorize the city manager to execute the document, and consider the ordinance.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item number 10.
Consent agenda items A through K.
Motion to approve consent agenda items A through K.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hurt.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
and B.
Item 11.
Items 11A and B, report from the Public Works Department regarding payment to Miller Trucking and Excavating, Silvis, Illinois, for an emergency water main repair at 3721 46th Street in the amount of $17,035.51. B, report from the Public Works Department regarding a payment to Langman Construction, Rock Island, Illinois, for the 2025 sidewalk and pavement patching program in the amount of $153,836.40.
Motion to allow claims A and B.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Due to the nature of my employment, I need to recuse myself from this vote.
Any more discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item 12.
A, report from the Police Department regarding the Rock Island Police Department broadcast media agreement with Tate Communications for the purchase of advertisement time for recruitment in the amount of $20,000 using ARPA funds restricted.
Motion to approve the agreement and authorize the city manager to execute documents.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, any discussion? Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
12B.
Report from the City Attorney and Public Works regarding a real property lease agreement and city track agreement with Iowa Interstate Railroad, LLC.
Move to approve the agreement and authorize the city manager to execute the documents.
Second.
First and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
12C.
Report from administration regarding an execution of a waiver and release of right of first refusal with Friendship Manor Properties, LLC.
Motion to approve the waiver and release right of first refusal and authorize the city manager to execute the document.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item 13.
A and B, report from the Finance Department regarding a budget adjustment to the MLK Activity Fund 901 in the amount of $83,104.15. B, report from the Finance Department regarding a budget adjustment to the Com Development Block Grant Seed FDA 14.218 Fund 242 in the amount of $39,599.13.
Motion to approve budget adjustments A and B.
Second.
There's been a first and a second, and really a third, but is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item 14.
A, report from the Community Development Department regarding the Community Development Block Grant CDBG 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan and the 2025 Annual Action Plan.
Motion to approve the 2025 through 29 Consolidated Plan and the 2025 Annual Action Plan as recommended.
There's a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have a few questions for Miles, and he already knows ahead of time. Miles, can you explain what makes Rock Island an entitlement community, and is it a possibility to lose that status?
Certainly. So the City of Rock Island has been a Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, entitlement community for over 50 years now, for as long as there has been CDBG. Rock Island was originally made an entitlement community because it had been previously a model cities community and a recipient of similar federal funds, part of different programs that were ultimately rolled into CDBG. Part of the determination of being involved in those programs was the need for urban reinvestment in housing, infrastructure, and a range of other services and facilities benefiting predominantly low and moderate income persons. Over the years, who is eligible as a community to become an entitlement have changed. Today, you need to have at least a population of 50,000 people, as well as fall beneath a certain income threshold overall. By those standards, Rock Island can be considered to have been grandfathered into CDBG, having maintained its status for all those decades. We can still lose our designation as a CDBG entitlement, and it is something that we are, of course, always mindful of. To retain that status, we must be in good standing with HUD year to year. Remaining in good standing means a lot of different things. Complying with all applicable federal regulations, of course, is the obvious one. Making sure that anytime we undergo an audit, or as HUD calls it, a monitoring, we get a clean bill of health in our program administration, and that we are spending down our CDBG funds in a timely manner, otherwise known as the timeliness test. Every year, for quite a long time, the City of Rock Island has received approximately $1 million in CDBG funds. And we have these last few years done a pretty good job running a tighter ship and spending that money down on a range of different programs and activities in a timely fashion. We are hopeful that we can continue that track record and maintain our CDBG entitlement status for another 50 years to come.
Okay. Next question, and these are all coming from the report pretty much on page 7. I don't know if they could pull it up or not. So next question was, could you briefly explain the 6 categories listed and also why the 15% cap for public service was reduced?
Certainly. I think perhaps the easier way to look at those categories is to open up the memo attached with this agenda item. There is a table inside of there that shows some of the splits across different spending areas within. These are the same splits that are used in every annual action plan. And again, if you're following along in the memo, I'll just follow the order that they are in. Housing rehabilitation is one of the bigger chunks of the budget every year. It forms the core of the CDBG program that we run here in Rock Island. Obviously, deteriorated housing and the housing that our low and moderate income residents live in is of chief concern. CDBG is one of the more helpful funds that we receive to address that. So that is one category. There's also housing rehabilitation service delivery. That is something of an accessory category to the first. This includes costs for equipment, supplies, and some of the specific staff costs associated with running those programs. We also have public facility funds. In the past, this has also been referred to as infrastructure as a category. This is used to provide funding to improve public facilities owned by the city or operated publicly. Typical projects usually are adaptive improvements to restrooms, so ADA compliance and the like. We also have a public service category. Within your total allocation of CDBG funds, you may allocate up to 15% of funds for use by nonprofit partners to operate different types of service programs to the benefit of low and moderate income persons. I'll return to your second question in a second about why that 15% cap is not being hit in the CDC's recommendation. Another category is economic development. One of the goals of CDBG funds is to provide employment opportunities for low and moderate income residents. In the past, as in now, we have tried to fulfill that goal by running a revolving loan fund. We used to call it CURLIF. Technically in the program policies, now it's just the Business Assistance Program. But that is what most people would know it as, CURLIF. And then finally is program administration. This includes a lot of the legal costs, document management costs, some of the different studies and other kind of administrative odds and ends required to run the CDBG portfolio as a whole. Returning to this question of public service funding, the process that we go through to budget all of this is essentially this. Staff wait to see what our allocation in the given year is going to be And then once we are given that number by HUD, we have a 60-day window to go through a planning process, engaging the public, and looking at different data as it becomes available. Some of the things year to year do not change very much. The housing rehab programs, for example, are very successful. This past year, I believe we completed, and we added a few other funding sources. So again, kind of like the IDA funds, it was padded. Something like 50 different housing rehab program projects, the largest I believe we've ever completed. That program being so core, we kind of rolled that forward. Our staff costs, administrative costs, those also remain relatively stable over the years. The CURLIF program, or the ED section of this budget, again, that sort of sits to the side as a revolving loan fund, which leaves public facilities, public services. I mentioned that there is that 15% cap for public services. This year, the Community Development Commission, which helps to review an initial proposal for the budget from staff, looked at the different applications that were received from both city departments seeking assistance on various public facility projects and the applications received from nonprofits seeking assistance expanding service programs they had. And they felt that it was important this year to support the two projects that ultimately made it through the process for public facilities. Both of those are ADA restroom renovation projects. The CDC, the Community Development Commission, was concerned about city facilities being accessible to the public, especially members of the public with disabilities. Obviously, it is July, so it's Disability Month, so there's obviously something to be said about the concern for folks like that. They recommended a reduction in the total allocation for public services and moving some of that funding over to assist with those two projects. As you can see on the agenda, there are two other items tonight following this one. The one that you currently are considering is the overall plan documents with the bulk of the budget. We then, as staff, because we know these are always conversations council appreciates the opportunity to have pulled out public facilities and public services separate items in case there is a desire to adjust those numbers in some way.
So my concern is that I guess I find it kind of alarming to reduce funding to nonprofits, you know, with the federal government cutting budgets. So my recommendation, or I would like to see the council restore that $25,000 to those nonprofits and to allow that cap, and then maybe we can look at some other possibilities. I know we have some ARPA investment monies available that maybe that could go toward the facilities instead of, you know, for the ADA. So that would be my recommendation. And then furthermore, the King Center, which has been a staple in our community, has had drastic cuts from this program. And I can understand, you know, sharing with, you know, other nonprofits, but to go down to 50,000 when they're used to getting over 100, to me, that's extreme when we know what the services they provide to the community for the probably the most at-risk population in our community. So I'm not the expert, but I do have some experts here. Could we allow them to speak for a couple of minutes at all?
Can I piggyback before they come?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You know, first of all, for me, I'm in the first ward, which where the King Center is. Okay? I've watched programs steadily fall further and further based on lack of dollars in that community. We deal with so many at-risk youth as well as youth without funding. And that program has been involved for years at dealing with bridging the gap for those youth. I'm sorry, I'm not on the mic. I think the 15% should go back to the King Center 100% due to the fact that, like I said, I've watched the programs decrease based on the lack of funding. And if there's anything that I can do to advocate for that program, like I said, my kids went through it. I know too many of us have been involved in it for many years. I think the King Center does too much for our community to take more and more away from it and expect it to have the same level of excellence that it's brought to the city of Rock Island.
So my first expert would be Dr. Yolanda Granberry Pugh, who is a high school teacher, and also she can talk a little bit about her studies on the at-risk student population. However, we're only going to give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Then with that, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. Yes. Specifically, what do you want to know? Get into the reading and the math scores. Okay, so at this moment in time, if you take a look at the students who are most at risk pertaining to their reading and math scores, it would also match the population of students who are being served by the Martin Luther King Center, where those individuals, you have less than 5% who are excelling in their reading and math scores, and then less than 2% who are meeting or are proficient in reading and in math scores. And you can find this information if you just simply go to the Illinois Schools Report Card and pull up the Rock Island Milan School District. You can take a look at the overall school district, what's going on with the reading and math scores. You would want to take a look at the IRA test scores for kids ranging from elementary to junior high, and you'll be able to see it. All of the data is right there. And overall, as a community in the city of Rock Island, all of our students, regardless of where they live in Rock Island, are less than 20% as far as either mastering or being proficient in reading and math scores. So this really is a Rock Island issue, not just a Martin Luther King Center issue, but the Martin Luther King Center has done an excellent job of trying to meet these needs of the students that they serve, and we need their work to continue in our community to help our kids. Anything else? You're welcome.
Thank you. And then for Jerry Jones, the director of the King Center, can you just tell us the impacts of the budget cuts over the past couple of years, CDBG?
Sure. So we've seen with this recommendation.
Up, if you don't mind, is he on camera back there?
You want me to come up there?
I didn't know.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted the camera to see him. Okay, we're fine. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Over the last 2 years, with this recommendation, we've seen over a $100,000 cut from CDBG to go to the after-school program and summer day camp for the Martin Luther King Center. The impacts of this cut, I could easily say to you, could be a reduction in how many kids that we serve, but we've already made that cut with the cuts we've seen last year. I would hate to see us drop below 50 kids that we have in our after-school program, and this year we're serving roughly 90 to 100 kids in our summer day camp, and we used to serve 150. The impacts that we'll start to see is that we'll have to reduce the quality of our program. And that means the enrichment activities, that means the focus tutoring, it means STEAM activities, it means arts, it means social and emotional learning. It means that we are simply being babysitters and doing the thing that I cannot abide by, is simply being a warehouse for the kids that deserve so much more than that. We are not just seeing cuts from CDBG. This year, United Way has given us a 50% cut. And of course, we're incredibly concerned about the federal cuts that could affect the state of Illinois coming very soon. Also, if we're going to maintain the program, we'll have to look into other funding, diverting our energy and resources to be devoted to the after school and summer day camp programming, meaning that we will lose our ability to be innovative, such as with our work with West End Revitalization. So it's not just an impact on the program, it's an impact on our organization. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
So, again, oh, you have something. Oh, go ahead.
So, I guess I want to speak on behalf of the facilities and the library and the ADA compliant restroom. The library also has been severely cut in their funding. the library, because this is an ADA bathroom, does not have the avenues that other nonprofits have to go out and raise funding for programs, because this is a building capital thing, so there is no other place to get money. I guess my feeling is if we wish to give the public service area, the MLK Center in particular, more money, I would suggest that we look at cutting the amounts given to the other nonprofits in that area and keep the public service funding or public facility funding where it is, because I think it's very important to have ADA compliant bathrooms. The library has none, and this is a big problem in a public space. So I guess my question would be, let's look within the public service category and move numbers around if we feel that one entity needs more, but I would leave the public facilities alone because they literally have no other recourse to raise funds.
Would you support Alderperson Barnes' proposal that we fund the ADA bathroom improvements at the fire station and the library with ARPA interest dollars instead of public service dollars from CDBG?
I mean, I guess if we have them.
What is the cost of those two projects? 60. Yeah, we probably don't have quite that much, but you know, we do have some available surplus funds from prior years. So if the council wants to fund these projects as priorities, we can certainly do that.
And it would not require the entire $60,000. It would require the $25,555 that was reduced. And as of June 30th, we have about $50,000 available in the ARPA investment income. And I know over the past year that's been used for various purposes, including recreational purposes and what have you. So I think we could justify using the ARPA investment income for those ADA bathrooms and return the tap back to the CDBG.
Well, I guess then my question is, will that $25,000 all go to the MLK Center, or will it be divided equally among all the entities?
Again, I would like to see MLK receive their funding request of $75,000 instead of the $50,000 that the CDC is recommending, again, based on the past history that we know the MLK has done. They are a city department also, just like the fire and the library. So I think that it behooves us to try to make sure, you know, that they're receiving, not that the others aren't as important because they're receiving funds also, but to at least do that much for MLK Center instead of dealing with those drastic reductions.
If I may, sorry to interject, Council. I just want to make sure we're all looking at numbers and kind of know where we're at. So this first item, again, is for the overall plan with the two line items for public facilities and public services pulled out. Those are two separate items on the agenda. For reference, if you go to the little down the agenda and open the memo for the item pertaining to, and I'm sure I'm bothering the city clerk jumping around on the agenda, I apologize. But if you open up the memo for the public service funds, in that memo you see a little chart showing kind of what was requested from some of the nonprofit agencies and then what the CDC is recommending. So just for your ease of reference, since you're having this conversation now, you can see what Alderwoman Barnes is referring to.
Miles, are we able to pass the consolidated plan and annual action plan, but postpone the specific line items for the public service and public facilities line items?
We're kind of in crunch time, so Alderperson Barnes had previously asked me about, hey, do we have a little more time to look at this? We actually every year already request an extension from HUD to submit these documents at a later time than they would normally allow us to. Part of that is the way that our fiscal year and the federal fiscal year are out of sync. Part of that is to do with Congress approving a budget later and later and later every year. So we're already on extended time. And we're hoping to submit this before the next council date, I believe. And Alderman Barnes, you'll forgive me. You have that date, I think, in front of you, and I do not, the date I gave you, the absolute deadline.
I guess my question would be then, since the MLK Center requested 75 and if we wanted to give them the extra 25, could we not pull that from the ARPA funds to give them that instead of pulling it from the public facilities?
As the city manager said, that is a decision for all of you. Again, staff are just delivering on to you the Community Development Commission's recommendations. I can tell you what you certainly can't do or can do with CDBG funds, the 15% cap for social services being obviously a hard guardrail. But how exactly you want to move these funds around is up to you, and that's why these items are pulled out from the overall plan.
Would we be able to use $25,000 from the interest money, ARPA money, to just contribute to the King Center?
Certainly could, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but again, I think we're going back to the point that we are reducing that 15% to the nonprofits. Again, we're talking about nonprofits that are facing federal cuts. And if there's a way the local government can step in and help during this time, I think we should do that. I think that would be the right thing to do. But then again, ARPA investment income.
But ARPA investment income can go to MLK Center.
I think
my feeling is this is just a reduction for 1 year. It's not necessarily written in stone. We're going to do this for every year. I just feel really strongly that they're all good projects. They all need to have some funding. I just feel very strongly that ADA bathrooms are, especially at the library, are an absolute necessity, and to take that money away from that project, I'm adamantly opposed to that.
So again, and I'm adamantly opposed to reducing a 15% cap to nonprofits during a time when the federal government is reducing their funds. So, as local government, we need to step in and do what's right. Again, we could use the ARPA investment monies for the ADA bathrooms while still providing that 15% cap to those nonprofits.
on the subject of funding the King Center broadly, I share your concern, Alderperson Barnes. Frankly, I think it's a little shameful that the city of Rock Island, pretty much, our only contribution, and maybe not our only, but, our contribution to the King Center is federal dollars. There's no local tax that supports the King Center, for example. I think that indicates sort of, well, we'll support this, but only so long as we get money from the feds to afford this. This isn't really a priority for us. And I know that may be harsh, but I share your concern that the city does not locally support the King Center enough. And to that point, I would say that, we have a proposed development that, should it happen, we are pushing, against a lot of public controversy regarding this development that is suggested to bring in $2 million a year. And I think it would be wise for us to consider responsible allocation of that new revenue as we get it in, right? Just something for us to think about. We have this project that this potential project that we may be seeing a significant amount of revenue increase coming in. And I think that we should seriously consider how are we going to allocate that new revenue, and I would encourage us to consider institutions like the King Center.
I just want to add to that. To look at the King Center moving from $150,000 down to $75,000, that they're actually still asking for half of what they used to get. 150?
Based on recommendation.
Right. But I also agree with you that it's sad that the only money that they do receive comes from federal dollars from the city. We've got to find some other ways, because they are catalysts, especially in my ward, but in our city. We do everything at the King Center, and still we find that the King Center is the least place getting the support that it needs. Not taking anything away from the ADA bathrooms at the fire station nor the library. I believe they should be there. The problem is it's not at the expense of the young people that are at the King Center either.
On a totally different subject, Miles, I would like to register my annual grievance about the economic development portion of the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan, and I plan tonight to start having an annual protest vote on this matter, and will be voting no.
Yes. So is there any more discussion?
I guess, again, just going back to my recommendation of amending the report to restore the 15% cap and increasing MLK award to $75,000.
Okay, so you're asking for an amendment. Sorry, that wasn't, okay, clear. So we have an amendment.
So I want to be clear.
Point of order. Miles, do you want to
point
clarify?
Point of order for
Yeah.
me. That would be out of order at this time. That specific motion would be appropriate on the following two items. So we pulled those out separately, exactly anticipating that there would be this discussion. So the specific thing that you would be voting for this time is for the overall 5-year plan and 1-year plan with all of the other budget items with those two lines pulled out for separate consideration.
I was just wondering since they were listed in the report.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the annual action plan, the 2025 annual action plan does have the allocation for public service and public facilities. And in that annual action plan, what is presented on this agenda item is a less than 15% max for public services in the annual action plan.
Mm-hmm.
So the motion to amend the annual action plan to reflect returning to a 15% max for the public services portion of the annual action plan would be appropriate?
So we separated those items out into the following ones in case if you wanted to go and change what was in the plan.
Okay, so I guess.
So and the reason that we did that was for clarity, as we have the last couple of years, so that it was very clear what it was that you were approving.
So if there is opposition to, for example, the public service portion of the annual action plan, you're saying that we should vote in the affirmative for the annual action plan on this agenda item, but then vote against the funding allocation for public service in the following agenda item. That seems, why would I vote for the annual action plan if I don't support what's in the annual action plan?
If you have overall objections to the annual action plan, I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
May I make a recommendation? If someone would like to make a motion to table item 14A, we can move on to B and C, and then we can bring from the table item 14A. That's how we should use motions to table. You can bring it up during the same meeting. It might make more sense to go on to items B and C, and then we know exactly what we're approving on item A. That's just a...
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
I have a good recommendation, thank you.
Yeah. So we'll move on to item B, and then we'll go back to A. Miles.
But we got to vote.
Yes, I need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So any more discussion? There's a first and a second. Any more discussion? Does everyone know where we are?
The motion is to table this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Clerk, call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Pulis.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item C.
B.
Oh, excuse me. B, excuse me.
Report from the Community Development Department regarding the 2025 funding allocation amount for public service applicants.
Motion to amend the 2025 public service funding applicants and amounts to reduce the amount given to every organization and give that amount to the MLK Center to bring them to the $75,000.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Any discussion?
So where are you recommending transferring the funds from?
Taking it away from the other organization.
Which ones?
so I'd like to interject again, I'm sorry. Each of them, if you look at the memo on that column, the far right, they're each being recommended for awarding of different amounts. So how would you like to see that done?
The issue where I have with this is if you look at percentage-wise, they all got roughly between 75 to the YWCA got 30% of what they originally asked. So, I mean, while I understand the MLK Center is going from 75 to 50, that's, you know, that is a reduction, but every single solitary one here got a reduction in what they asked for. And percentage-wise, it is pretty standard, except if I was the YWCA, they got a lot less than everybody else, and they service people and children as well, and that is a brand new facility in our city. Why would we not want to support them? So I have a hard time now taking away more from people than they originally requested. I'm sure if they knew this was an agenda item that was even up for debate, every one of them would be here asking for more money. I mean, who would not be? I have clock in my ward. I don't know why they wouldn't be here and why I wouldn't be stumping for them. So I guess I understand the MLK Center is part of the city, and I do want to, you know, support them as well. But if we're going to support one more than the other, I kind of have an issue with that.
I guess I don't understand the motion. So, Alderperson Swanson, are you?
So the motion is, the total amount is $130,000. You give the MLK Center $75,000, and you divide the rest of it up among the other 1, 2, 3, 4.
But that's not what we discussed earlier.
But that's what I discussed.
Okay, well then, I would like to amend it to restore the 15% cap. So how do we go about that?
You have to, go ahead.
No, sorry, Alderperson Barnes, could you, I couldn't hear you.
We need to take one amendment at a time.
No, technically you can make a motion to amend an amendment if that's what you, technically under Robert's rules, you can make a motion to amend an amendment. So I just want to clarify what your request is.
So my request when we decided to table was to restore the 15% cap to the nonprofits, not reduce. Restore the 15% cap and increase MLK to 75,000. So
you're proposing that the public service portion of the CDBG budget be $155,555 as opposed to $130.
Correct.
Okay. That is almost an entirely different motion. So just for clarification, I think we should take one of those motions first, then the second one.
I need a second for Alderwoman Swanson's first.
We did have a second.
Seconded. I don't have that on my record. Poulos did?
Mark, yeah, there was a second.
So we have discussion on that amendment, or do you want me to go ahead and call the roll?
So I'll call the roll.
Hold on.
Time out. Does everyone know what Alderperson Swanson recommended? That's where we are right now.
Alderperson Swanson recommended a total budget for public service at $130,000. Of that, $75,000 of it goes to the King Center, and the remaining, whatever that math is, 130 minus 75, gets distributed equally among the remaining applicants.
So when you say equally, is that 4? So each one is looking at $13,750. No, that's what they would get.
So and what do we do about Humility Homes, whose request was ineligible?
So there's nothing to take away there.
That one was just directly.
Well, I'm just making sure that I understand the motion. That when you say distributed to the remaining applicants, they're
ineligible, so they wouldn't be in.
Are we doing it per amount, or we're doing an equal? I just want to make sure that we have it clear too. Are we doing it based on a percentage of what they were allocated, or were you doing it based everyone is the same amount that we're reducing it by? I just want to clarify that, because you said an equal shares, that could be interpreted two ways. So just for clarification purposes, are we
percentage they were allocated?
Okay.
So now, question for the motion that's on the table now. We vote on that, but what will that do for Alderperson Barnes' motion? It seems like one will know the other. So
Again,
where are we at?
technically, I did just double check on Robert's rules. You can make a secondary amendment. Technically, the secondary amendment goes first. So we would have to have a second for Alderperson Barnes's. Again, I'm looking at it right here because it's very complicated. We haven't had this.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Just to add to the craziness here.
Please don't make an amendment, Alderperson
No.
Hurt.
So the QC narratives, that's the mental health one, right? So could we remove them from receiving anything out of this thing? Because we have mental health funds. We could probably give
You
them
could
instead
make
of-
that.
Huh?
You could make that amendment, yes.
I'm saying that would move, at least may not be the full 75, but it would give 15,000 more to MLK, and I know we have some mental health that we could probably, for the same amount, we could probably give them.
Yeah, so we have like 20,000 in ARPA unrestricted for mental health left.
I'm just trying to find an easy way out here of maybe take them out of here and we can come back and allocate some mental health funds for them since we're taking them off, and that would give 15,000 to MLK.
So if you wish to, you can make that amendment, and that one would take priority over Barnes's motion and over
I'm not doing anything.
Swanson's motion.
Okay, again, the cleanest way would be to restore the 15% and then use the ARPA investment for the bathrooms. That's the cleanest way to do it. And if we want to really talk about using funds, I mean, we've used the ARPA investments for other purposes. We've done the Sunset Marina loan, $1.4 million. We've done the Saki Clubhouse, $55,000. We've done the Mel McKay Tennis Club, $20,000. So I think we could do the 88 bathrooms using the ARPA investment income and still keep this 15% intact.
Okay.
That's the cleanest point. That's the cleanest way.
And just a point of order, I think Alderperson Hurt was making, I don't know if you were doing a discussion on the item or if you're making a motion to amend it to do that.
I was just trying to see what the options before, without making
Okay, just wanted clarification.
We need to make a decision first as to how much
And
do
then
we
we
want
can-
to have the total budget for the public service, right? And so that is the unique thing that you're proposing, Alderperson Barnes, is it 155,555 or is it 130? We need to make a decision about what's the total public service budget. And then we figure out how do we want to divvy up that public service budget. If we increase the public service budget to 155,555, then where do we take out of the rest of the annual action plan for the CDBG program? Do we take it out of public facilities, which I understand you're suggesting, Alderperson Barnes, and then use ARPA interest money to subsidize that?
Correct.
Is that what we want to do? Or, I mean, we need to first make a decision about what's the total public service budget.
Correct, so the total public service at 15% is $155,555.
Would everyone be comfortable with removing, how could we do this? Never mind.
What?
I was going to have a motion to just vote on the total budget and then you also.
Well, yes. Well, I think technically, because I think Alderperson Barnes's motion was to put all of that allocation towards the King Center, correct? I want to make sure, because we've been talking a lot, was it to increase it back to that 155,500, I'm so sorry, I don't have that number specifically in front of me, and give that excess amount to the King Center, or was it to just increase the budget of the nonprofit?
Both. So it's two parts, yes, to increase that back to the cap, and then provide MLK with the funding request, which would be 25,000, so there still would be 555 that could be applied to maybe, split it out or give it to one other, however they want it.
Take it away from the library, parent.
Not taking it away.
Well, I mean, at some point we vote on.
That's where it's coming from. But there's funds available.
May I make a suggestion to help alleviate this? One quick comment. The Community Development Commission had an equally challenging time with this exact set of questions. It is really hard. especially in an increasingly resource scarce environment, to make these decisions. If you look at the projects, if you look at the nonprofits, all good things. We want all of them to do well and support the community. There's a compromise here. We are getting that $500,000 from IDA for housing rehabilitation funding. If there's a desire to restore the public service line item total to the original 150 and perfect, to that amount, and to fully fund the request from MLK, and then to leave the recommended amounts for public service as they are, the difference can be pulled out of the housing rehab line item. Okay? And then we backfill it with the $500,000 of IDA money because, as you asked earlier, Alderperson Barnes, they run together as the same basic program. I wouldn't make that recommendation except that we have that little extra money coming in this year. I can't guarantee that's always a fix year to year, but I think that might be the most straightforward way of addressing this impasse this year. Does that make sense to everyone? Can I just get a acknowledgement? Does that approach basically make sense?
How would you make that motion if you were to make that motion, Miles?
I would recommend all motions on the table be rescinded back to the perhaps original motion.
However, I think it goes back to the principle of not reducing the cap that the nonprofits are eligible for.
Again, a policy decision of the council whether or not you're allowed to go up to the 15%. You could allocate 0. It's up to the council to decide that. The only thing federal regulations state is that you may expend up to 15% of your total CDBG allocation on services. Does that make sense to everyone? It's just the upper limit, but you can go lower if you choose to, or keep it at 15.
And the recommendation that you're providing is here to reduce the amount for housing rehabilitation and put it into public service brings up the public service budget to that 15% max.
Correct. Well, the number that you so astutely continue to repeat. Does that? I want to make sure that there's clearly a need to do a lot of different things. Does that approach make sense for everyone? Does that seem reasonable? Does that sound good? We'll use some of the item money to backfill the one line item for housing rehab. Again, not a fix that'll work every year, but we could make that work this year. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend, and please, city attorney, city clerk, correct me if this sounds out of order. Are they able to make a motion covering all 3 items at once?
Yes, I don't see why we couldn't.
One was tabled.
We'd probably, so we're currently in this item. We would want all of the motions currently pending to be rescinded. We would then go ahead and table this item, bring forth item A back from the table, amend item A to indicate what you are stating, vote on that, and then go back and approve item B and C. That's how I would do it. But in item A, you would go ahead and state exactly what you're doing and amending, so then item B and C would just be a formality based on what we've adopted under item A.
Does that seem reasonable?
Would we not have to amend item B and C then?
No, we still would.
We'd still have to.
Unless you're taking it as
You can
one.
make a motion. Yeah, someone could make a motion, bring forth item A from the table, and then make a motion adopting items A, B, and C and amending them to state blah, 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 and then moving to pass item 14, A, B, and C based on that.
That would be my recommendation, given the nature of the conversation the council has just had.
Since I made the motion, I'll go ahead and remove my table.
No, that would be Alderperson Parker, because Alderperson Parker and Linda's motion amendment now stands. That's the one we are on right now.
All right.
I rescind my second.
Alderperson Barnes? We're at your amendment. Alderperson Parker just rescinded his second, so it's up to you if you want to rescind your first or not.
No, we're going to, yeah, we're trying to take a procedural step to get what it is that you requested and to maintain the funding levels for the public facility projects that Alderwoman Swanson was interested in seeing. No, it's taking it back up to 15 by pulling some funds out of housing rehab to backfill up to the 15.
So what am I going to do?
Rescind
I'm
your
going to
your motion to
rescind
amend.
My amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
And now I will need Alderperson Swanson.
No, Alderperson Poulos first and then
Poulos,
Swanson.
sorry, and then
That's
Swanson.
okay.
I will rescind my motion to table.
And I will rescind my motion.
Okay. Item A.
We need someone to take it from the table.
I make a motion to return item 14A from the table.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
This is just to take it from the table.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item A.
I make a motion. Here we go, gang. Stick with me. I move to approve I'm going to vote for the consolidated plan. I wasn't going to because I object to the CURLIF, but I guess I will to get this done.
See, Alderman Parker, see how we've reeled you in.
Yeah, you got me, Miles. Move to approve the 2025-2029 consolidated plan and the 2025 annual action plan, but amend it to make, and this isn't good language, but anyway, move it to make the public service budget $155,555, reduce the housing rehabilitation budget of the annual action plan by $155,555, and then increase the allocation to the King Center from $50,000 to whatever the difference is between $155,555 and $130,000.
Staff, perfect. Staff knows what to do with that
I have
motion.
a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, Miles. Do we have excess funding then based on the funding requests and the amount that we now have? Because I'm looking, it sounds like funding request was 240, or this 240, 150. The CDC recommendation was 130. That's, there's not $155,000 there in terms of the funding requests.
So do they need to add something about the $25,000 for the public facilities to take that out of there?
So that line item would remain.
We're not touching public facilities.
I'm just talking about this specific.
Yeah, so that would remain the same. So basically, if the gist of the motion is to take it up to the full 15% possible within the budget framework, and whatever that difference is between what's there now and that 15% would go to the MLK Center, that is what staff would do.
It would be up to the
That's what my-
CDC recommendations, not the funding request recommendations.
Are you concerned? Yeah, are you concerned about?
There's 110,000.
You're looking at the requested line item, which exceeded the 15% possible.
It would have to be the CDC recommendations and add the $25,000 for the MLK Center.
But that's still, I'm looking at the.
That would be 155.
Correct. I know what you're looking at is what their total requests were, which were well in excess of the 15% of the allocation. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's my motion.
Okay.
All right.
So is there any more discussion? Are we all confident where we are and what we're voting on? Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Thank you, Miles. Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Thank you. I do want to just, in for a penny, in for a pound here. These are very difficult budgeting decisions. So I want to commend the council for the discussion on it. Again, the Community Development Commission has the same trouble trying to come up with what their recommendation should be. It is tough.
Thank you for your expertise, Miles.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you.
we're trying to keep it moving, Miles.
Straighten this out, Miles. Okay, item D.
Report from the Community Development Department regarding a sign variance request from A. Hannah Ilwa LLC for property at 3809 60th Avenue West.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion?
Sorry, I do have a question. Sorry.
Oh,
So,
you're fine.
given the fact that this has passed, meaning that, Leslie, it's okay to talk about the timeline and as far as the bidding process? Okay, so do they have a right to request the sign variance if this is going out to bid?
There is
Or it's not?
So the bidding only applies to the downtown, right?
No.
That's not the memo I got.
Yes, it is. If you look at the memo, so there's two issues here. For the sale of city-owned property, when they are in a TIF, you have to go ahead and bid it out if you're going to be using redevelopment funds for property that's located in a redevelopment district. So for this and for the other economic development project that's in a different area, we do have to establish a bidding process for that. We were not able to start that bidding process until this had passed, until the TIF expansion had expanded into the area where the proposed development is going to be. So now that that has passed, we can go ahead and start the bidding process for the sale of that city-owned land. As for your question regarding the sign variance request, I would have to look at that.
If I may,
Yeah, if
Leslie.
you can go ahead and look at it.
So the land in question where this variance is being sought is still owned by the city. The city, as owner, can consent to the application in the same way that any person who owns a property that a business is doing something on can sign a waiver giving that applicant permission to proceed with the application. Additionally, applications of this sort for variances for projects that have not yet, officially begun are granted. They are thereby contingent upon the ultimate project going forward. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess it's just a little confusing that it's a request. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. So,
Any more
That's
discussion?
fine.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item 15A.
Report from the City Clerk's Office regarding a request from Bent River Brewing to use sound amplification for live music on Saturday, September 13th, 2025 from 12 to 2 a.m. or 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. and a request for the outdoor consumption of alcohol in the fenced-in area of the adjacent parking lot.
Move to approve the request subject to complying with all liquor license regulations and subject to being closed down early if complaints are received.
Second.
First and a second, is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Aye.
Parker. Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item 15B.
Report from the City Clerk's Office regarding a request from the Rock Island Grand Prix to hold their 30th annual Go-Kart Street Race on Saturday, August 30th through Sunday, August 31st, 2025 from 8 to 5 p.m. each day.
Move to approve the event as recommended.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Hertz.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Item 16.
Rock Island Port Authority. Need a motion to go into the Port Authority.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are now in Port Authority session.
Any updates?
No update.
Move to exit Port Authority.
First and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 17. Does anyone have any new business to discuss? Okay. 18, item 18.
closed session 5 ILCS 122 C11 litigation when an act against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. B, 5 ILCS 122 C21, discussion of minutes of meetings unlawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.06.
Motion to enter closed session for the
Second.
executive.
There's a
Nice
first and a
finish,
second.
Lord.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
Oh, excuse me,
Oh,
excuse
yes.
me,
Sorry.
excuse me. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderperson Swanson. Parker.
Aye.
Poulos.
Aye.
Healy. Evans.
Aye.
Hurt. Barnes. We are now in closed session. Todd, we're convening over here.